This is Barry Kraft welcoming you back to another episode of Smatterings from Shakespeare. We're going to look at that year 1595 that we looked at earlier. The year Shakespeare returns with full power to playwriting after years of enforced poetry writing, sonnets, Venus and Adonis, The Rape of Lucrece, all of these highly complicated, involved, rhyming poets, because he couldn't write for the theater, he couldn't act on the stage. It was closed because of a severe outbreak of plague between 1592 and 1594. So here we see him in 1595 at the age of 31, casting about for something fresh. Now at age 31, Shakespeare was the author of a handful of delightful comedies, a handful of English history plays, but only one tragedy, Titus Andronicus. So now he turns to a love story, and he found this love story in a book called The Tragical History of Romeus and Juliet by a young man by the name of Arthur Brooke, who died around 1562 or 1563. In other words, who died a year or two before Shakespeare was born. In this particular poetical work, a very long, rhyming tale, The Tragical History of Romeus and Juliet, Shakespeare's eye must have first alighted upon that opening page of Brooke's tragedy, poetical tragedy. And what did he see there but a sonnet? A sonnet, the very things he had been writing in his enforced absence from the stage. I'm going to read you this sonnet that Shakespeare found. This is the sonnet prefacing Arthur Brooke's Romeo and Juliet, 1562. Love hath inflamed twain by sudden sight, and both do grant the thing that both desire. They wed in shrift by counsel of a friar. Young Romeus climbs fair Juliet's bower by night. 3 months he doth enjoy his chief delight. By Tybalt's rage, provoked unto ire, he payeth death to Tybalt for his hire. A banished man, he scapes by secret flight. New marriage is offered to his wife. She drinks a drink that seems to reave her breath. They bury her that sleeping yet hath life. Her husband hears the tidings of her death, he drinks his bane. And she, with Romeus' knife, when she awakes, herself, alas, she slayeth. So, in these 14 lines, we have the meat that Shakespeare is going to use to write 14 scenes, or 13 scenes. It's often wondered what was Shakespeare's personal anguish that led him to create this wonderful story of Romeo and Juliet. The entire film, a wonderful film, Shakespeare in Love, deals with this, with young Shakespeare getting the inspiration and finding the right characters. Well, you see, it was all done for him. But what makes Shakespeare unique is not his borrowing of sources. I don't think he ever wrote an original play. Well, perhaps Midsummer Night's Dream and Merry Wives of Windsor, The Tempest, and maybe just one or two others, but the rest of his plays were based on something that he saw or read, or a poem, a novel, or a play. Where Shakespeare's gift comes in is his alteration of his sources. We heard in the poem, 3 months, Romeus and Juliet enjoy their chief delight. Not in Shakespeare's version. He truncates the time. He moves it to just half a week, making it far more poignant and heart-wrenching than this longer period of time. And that's where we see Shakespeare's skill shine. His originality comes from his alterations. Oh, here's a little P.S. I think, my guess is, that Shakespeare, after 2 years of writing all of this rhymed poetry, and probably a very good number of his sonnets as well, was particularly intrigued by that sonnet we just heard by Arthur Brooke, giving the entire plot of Romeo and Juliet. And I think this is what spurred Shakespeare into beginning Romeo and Juliet with a sonnet. Two households, both alike in dignity, in fair Verona, where we lay our scene, from ancient grudge break to new mutiny, and so on. And I think he was so thrilled with that idea, he started Act 2 with a sonnet as well of his Romeo and Juliet. And I think he was so thrilled with his sonnet that he put the sonnet into the words of Romeo and Juliet when they first meet at the Capulet banquet ball scene. They share a sonnet between the two of them and embark on a second sonnet before they are interrupted. And I think Shakespeare probably would have gone on sonneting to the end of his career if his company didn't say, "Will, that was fine for the plague years, but let's get a little prosaic, eh?" See you next time.